overseas mortgage financing for global real estate industry. This is Pankaj Gupta from EthAum Venture Partners. We are a deep tech accelerator and fund based in Singapore with approximately 90 startups in the portfolio. These are AI, ML, blockchain, IoT, robotics, AR, VR kind of startups from different parts of the world, different industries, and utilizing different at different kind of stages, utilizing different kind of technologies. Propcap is one of the real estate PropTech startups that we onboarded in recent cohort, January 2023. And since they are focused on overseas mortgage financing for the real estate ecosystem, we would love to, we really wanted to have this panel, this thought leadership panel, where we can discuss what kind of innovation, what kind of trends, policy changes are really impacting this particular industry. Obviously, technologies such as blockchain, AI, ML, data science are playing a huge role in the evolution, disruption of this industry. But then there are also multiple geopolitical or regulation-related changes that are impacting the industry. So now, without further delay, I would request Sally and Neo to do a brief intro of Propcap and themselves. And after that, I would request our panelists to do a brief intro of themselves, and then we'll dive into the Q&A. Sally?
Hi, thank you, Pankaj. Good afternoon from Singapore, everyone. And good morning to Chiuxia, Valeria, Uma, and Surana. And also good evening to Ariel. Thank you so much for staying up so late to join this discussion. I'm Sally of Propcap Technologies, stationed in Singapore, looking after the Southeast Asian market and also the Middle East. And our founder, Neo, also here to answer your questions in the second part of this event. Propcap was founded in late 2019 in Hong Kong. At that time, a lot of China and Hong Kong investors are buying into UK and Japan properties. As they didn't have credit history in these countries, they have some difficulties of getting financed locally. Propcap was set up then to offer an alternate route for a long-term solution. We provide an AI-powered platform to match the borrowers and lenders together. We integrate different types of fintech and all AI tools to simplify the process for all the parties. And we reduce the process time by 70%. Our goal is to provide mortgages in different countries in multiple currencies on one platform. You and I are very excited today to have all of you here to exchange ideas, seeing some old friends here and making some new friends here. Thank you so much, Pankaj.
Thanks a lot, Sally. Really appreciate that. And I'm sure that you are going to make a lot of friends today. Okay, now I would request Valeria to do a brief intro of herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Valeria Frunze, and I'm running an estate agency specialized in property investment, property development, and portfolio management. At the moment, we invest in underdeveloped countries or underdeveloped regions, and we buy residential real estate. At the moment, I am developing a large portfolio in Greece because Greece has potential of growth, and it still has gaps where we're filling in. We develop in Southern Europe mostly and Eastern Europe at the moment.
Thanks a lot, Valeria. Appreciate your presence today.
Thank you.
And I'm sure you are going to share a lot of insights from these developing nations, developing countries that you're working with. Uma?
Yes, thank you. And great to hear from you all. And thank you for giving us this opportunity to share with you. So my name's Umar Hanif, and I'm a chartered real estate professional based in the UK, in the Northeast. So for those familiar with the UK, I am about half an hour south of Newcastle. I've been 20 years in the industry where I've been building and managing construction projects and assets for large corporate organisations for a large part of that time. I've also been a senior advisor to UK government, advising 4 prime ministers in that time, where I've secured over £8 billion worth of investment, foreign investment into the UK for the purpose of large real estate and infrastructure projects. So I've had the pleasure of working and delivering some of the largest and most high-profile construction projects across the UK. And the company that I set up, United Kingdom Development Corporation, has largely been set up for the purpose of attracting inward investment into the UK, but also in doing so, creating a sustainable future through real estate, which typically, as we know, has been one of the largest carbon emitting sectors across the world. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Umar. Really appreciate your presence. Suvarina?
Yes.
Please unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Olen with experience in CE countries and also working for a RICS as a European board member. So having a lot of interactions with the European global market also from that perspective.
Did we lose Suvarina? Or is it again my network?
My experience is based on logistics. Sorry. And for recently, I have my own boutique company, and I'm focusing on ESG advisory and also green energy to our biggest challenge. I also am a founder of a startup. This is a platform for procurement of facility management services. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Suvarina. I think sustainability is pretty hot topic for the real estate space. So definitely you have done some interesting work in this space. Chiu, may I request you to do an introduction?
Yes, hi, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon from London, UK. So as you all know, my name is Q. I'm working at Future Bricks, which is a fintech firm, but in the real estate space. It allows really all kinds of individuals, sophisticated investors to come and invest in real estate in a simplified manner where you are asset-backed against the property and the piece of land. And all projects are basically allowing us to back small and medium-sized property developers within the residential space in the UK to just supply more houses because there's a housing crisis in the UK. So making sure that the supply is really hitting up the benchmarks that we have here in the country.
Thanks a lot, Q. Ariel, I know this is quite late for you in LA, but I really appreciate your dedication, your support. Please do a brief intro.
Sure, yeah, no, this is great stuff. I like the entrepreneurial zeal of this group. And so Tokyo Land is a publicly traded company, top 4 Japanese developer. Outside of Japan, where we have, I believe our market cap's around 24 billion, 14 billion re-platform. We also have a large presence in Southeast Asia, in Indonesia, Malaysia. So there's a lot of synergies here with your platforms. As well, I'm currently based in Los Angeles. I manage the investments Texas West in the US. So outside of the real estate acquisition investment arm, we also do have a VC arm. And I think there's a lot of synergies that we can be discussed today as to how to scale some of these technologies for some of these public companies that would require such services.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Ariel. And believe me, putting on a shirt at 1 a.m. in the night is extremely difficult, and you have done that. So salute to you on that.
I may go to audio in a bit, but for right now, we're doing good.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, last but not the least, we have Smirnda from PropTech Romania. Please do a brief intro, Smirnda.
Hello, everybody. My name is Maranda Ignat. I am the co-founder of PropTech Romania. We are ecosystem enabler, and our mission is to connect the PropTech and the tech world with the real estate actors like developers or asset managers or investors, and also to help Romanian innovation and tech go abroad. We are very well connected with the European PropTech ecosystem. We are founding members of the EU PropTech House, which is a pan-European association. And right now, my personal focus is on creating and enabling healthier buildings, because of course we are spending 90% of our time inside a building of some sort, maybe in some countries even more than that. And I believe that the focus on how we create more sustainable buildings, healthier buildings, should be top of importance for the future.
Definitely, Esmeralda. I think that is one of the topmost priorities for many commercial real estate buildings, right? Okay, and after introduction, I would really love to get into the Q&A, where Sally is going to ask some really interesting questions, and I'm sure that we are going to get some amazing insights from our panelists. So Sally, are you ready with some exciting questions, burning questions, probably?
Yes, I'm all ready now. Thank you, Pankaj. So today's topic, we are talking about overseas mortgage financing, and our goal is to exchange ideas to identify the latest status of the industry, the gaps, how the evolution of startups and technologies on shaping the future of the industry. So I would like to structure the discussion probably starting from the macro perspectives and moving on to technology. So for the first question, I would like to invite Serena to share her view. As being in RICS, you must have talked to many of your members from various backgrounds and countries. What are the biggest frustrations they have got?
Well, that's a really great question. I think that right now we are living in a very changing world and also very violent world. So we are facing a lot of disruptions, and we are facing a lot of crises, starting from, we already mentioned the housing crisis, we had the COVID crisis, we had the environmental crisis. So I think the biggest frustration is that we are trying to cope with all of this and trying to build our businesses and our activities around that to face these problems, and we are always a little bit behind. And this is also considering the policymakers and the economical ecosystems, as I believe that as long as the innovative companies and founders, so they have a lot of great ideas to how to manage with all of these problems the world is facing right now. So the regulations are not following this. So we are still in the in the gap of how to really structure the activities. A huge role in building standards and guidelines is for all of us chartered real estate professionals around the globe. However, we also are facing the similar problems. Yeah? So for the evaluation in the new ESG requirements globally and how to address all of them, so they know how to prepare and how to work with that. But of course, this requires a lot of discussions and a lot of input from different different sides. So it's not really quick, so we can have this ready for this. So it takes time. Yeah? So I think that the biggest frustration now is that we do have to manage with the really different problems. And the regulations are not following of this. And also from the business side, so the biggest frustration for me as a startup founder also is the conservative approach and the problem with the really being to be open to implement them and to talk to different startup to find different solutions. So people especially with real estate. I was reading lately that it's only agriculture, I think, that is behind real estate concerning the digitalization and digital transformation. So we are really, really far in the tail, considering this.
I think there's, Suvarna's internet is a bit patchy.
Especially unfortunately, very many of, sorry? Many of them.
Go ahead.
Who are in the management of the companies. So they say it's like real estate has always been the same. Yeah, and as long as we are making a lot of money, a lot of our involvement, a lot of different approach, culture change, and really managing of people and management of this change. So I think this is my biggest frustration also. Thank you.
Thank you, Sorina. Thank you so very much. I think what you have said is the gap of reality, and there's a time gap in the solution and also the real situation. So I will ask Uma for your advice. I understand that you have actually advising governments, spending a lot of time advising on governments. So what are the biggest frustration with the policymakers in terms of overseas mortgage financing?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think the sort of previous remarks are really relevant and very much shared by myself. I think from my time in government, and I'm not a PropTech specialist, I'm from the sector industry itself, the real estate sector. So from my perspective, I think firstly, one of the biggest challenges is funding for startups from government and the encouragement of startups within PropTech. Government has actually been one of the most archaic organizations I've ever worked with in terms of their embracing of technology, and they're a very traditional and they're quite an inward looking organization at times. That may resonate with other governments in other countries possibly, but UK government, it's always been a very traditional organization. And on the flip side of that, there's huge areas where technology, in particular PropTech, can advance them and accelerate decision making and actually have a really positive impact for the citizens of the country. So, for example, innovative approaches within government could be around the planning system. The planning system is absolutely horrific in the UK, in that we're still waiting for planning decisions 18 months on, and that's largely because of the backlog and the manual processes in terms of the data, the information, the manual processing, the individual officer input for every single planning application. And it does really take time when you've got hundreds of planning applications. Community engagement when we're dealing with new build developments, and as well with the planning system. Regeneration when we're creating new places, we're creating new neighbourhoods. Again, there's little or no innovation in that regard. It's a very manual process. But we're in the middle of a housing crisis. So home ownership, the private rented sector, social housing, these are all sectors where technology isn't really well used at all. Data science in particular, to drive decisions, needs to be front and center, but that hasn't been the case. I've delivered thousands of social housing properties, affordable houses across the north of England. I've advised on 10,000 plus more across Scotland and north of England. And it alarms me at the lack of data, good quality, accurate data around demographics, around demand, sociological information. It's literally, there's a bit of land and we will build on it, but what are you going to build? When are you going to build? How are you going to build? There's other things that we'll talk about throughout the course of this talk, I've got no doubt, but these are some of my sort of initial approaches, that there's many outdated systems within local and national governments that PropTech can play a significant sort of role in. I build housing estates and sort of city centre developments. I've advised on them throughout the world and I deliver them throughout the UK. But how are we truly engaging with people? How do we really know what customers want? And the reality is we don't. we should be embedding PropTech solutions into the consultation processes to, as I say, help create new places, create digital neighborhoods where people can, simple things like order food, transport, books, all from a single platform at the same time that they can, you see how much energy they're using, how much waste they've created, what the carbon footprint is. These are very, very simple, innovative things that can be implemented that already exist. But as others have already said, we're a very slow industry to react in comparison to professional services, finance, digital, and so on. And that's going to be one of the biggest frustrations and challenges is the real estate sector's adoption of tech.
Thank you, Umar. I think maybe the first step that we should advise the government is to ask them to join our discussion.
Of course, and that's something that we can lobby them for.
Yeah, I would like to invite Q to this question is, one of the sayings from the founder of your company, Future Breaks, Ms. Tawari, she mentioned that Future Breaks is here to take away the pain points of SME house builders and investors. Q, can you share with us what are the pain points she's referring to?
Yes, absolutely. So I feel like what I'm going to say is going to echo a lot of what Umar has said earlier. And so considering that there is a housing crisis in the UK and there's a lack of supply of homes for individuals, the pain points we're looking at for people building the houses, the property developers, are really that seamless process where they get all of their paperwork in place. This includes planning permission, but also very importantly, this includes funding. So we know that one of the main issues and obstacles to them being able to really go ahead with the build is to have the financing, the money that they need in order to be able to successfully build a project. And so financing is not offered typically by high street banks because of the underwriting of the risk, as well as the size of most of the small and medium-sized property developers building regular Victorian houses, refurbishing, making flat units. So these project sizes would usually not fit the type of criteria you would see a bank normally sit down and go through the entire process of underwriting. And so we have here kind of a barrier with high street banks, and there's also a lack of support, therefore, from the government, obviously, in being able to properly support these SME property developers. So I would say that those are the main key pain points for the developers. As for the investors, we see that there is huge untapped potential, right? If someone needs money to build a house and they already have the building and the land, you can typically offer a sort of debt product, investment product in the form of like a mortgage where you have a first charge security. Investors have the possibility, therefore, to invest in such an investment product. And that should be something we feel should be more accessible, where people can earn up to 10% gross interest per year, and they still have this asset backed against real estate sort of quality. And we don't see that enough in terms of investment asset class accessibility to investors here in the country. So I would say the pain points is also being able to properly allow people to be aware there are these types of asset classes that are available and they are asset backed, and it's not something that's frequently seen in comparison against stocks and shares, bonds, mutual funds, etc. So we're really seeing pain points really on both sides of the equation, where people need money to build houses, and that's a problem. And now people also need different types of asset classes for investment, especially to counter the inflation that's taking place.
Thank you, Q. I guess this is the reasons why your companies and my Propcap have been set up based on all these imbalances on the equations.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to invite Sumaranda. What are the gaps in your country that you see which create opportunities for you? What are the pains and frustration that you have gone through?
Can I be the devil's advocate here?
Yes,
Oh,
please. We need a balance.
Okay, so I am all for technology and PropTech, and I've been pushing this course for the past, I don't know, 5 years or more. In the same time, I am a mentor and a coach for a lot of startups, and I teach them to look at their clients and understand why they are using or not using their product. And applying this sort of cognitive empathy to the real estate world, I cannot stop and notice that a lot of actors in the real estate are not using technology because they tried in the past and technology messed up their business or created a lot of complications for them. Implementing, let's say, tenant engagement app meant for one of my clients to change their access control hardware and do a lot of integration because they have other systems. The tenant engagement app needed to be integrated, so it's flawless. And they are almost 1 year after they signed the contract, and they still haven't launched the app because of all waiting for all these different companies to work together and integrate and make everything function. So even if I dream of a moment when PropTech would be obsolete, and I don't know if you remember, but I'm old enough to remember in my early days when I was applying for a job, you would see in the ad as a benefit or a bonus, a company laptop. And that was, wow, I get a laptop at this job. And right now, if I put that in a job ad, people would think that I'm mad. And what's this? Of course, you will have to give me a laptop. How else would I work? And pretty much I dream of a time when PropTech will be the same. We will no longer discuss about PropTech because it would be an integral part of any property asset. And it will be understandably, I mean, from the beginning implied that it has property tech. But right now I see that we are pushing an industry to adopt technology that maybe is not yet ready to be adopted at scale. Maybe they are not really prepared to integrate seamlessly as they should. And think about the comparison with the fintech. Fintech is still struggling in some ways, even though the payment system and all this banking integration is a standard by now. We don't have a standard in the tech for real estate. We have several standards, and we have several legislative national legislations that are different from country to country. Even in Europe, if you create a PropTech startup in Romania, you will have to twitch and turn it for every single country that you want to go to. And that's why Europe is so divided and not really a competitor with respect to US or China or bigger markets that can really bring up scale with the same regulations. So right now, instead of pushing actors to adopt technology, I would just pause more and better understand their problems and their needs and this drive for efficiency that we see in the real estate, and maybe package technology in a way that is easier adoptable and easier to implement. Sorry if the rant was too long, but that's just what's troubling me for the past months.
Thank you so much, Miranda. I think you're very correct. I mean, in Hong Kong, we say that real estate can be a sunset industry. So pushing an elephant to move one step forward probably needs a lot of showcase of how you can add value to them. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to invite Valeria to answer these questions. You have met up with a lot of international clients. What are their frustrations when you encounter with them? Valeria?
You're on mute.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So, you know, in the country that I was born, we have an expression, and we say that the fish is rotting from the head. So, in all the countries that I operate and invest and develop, they're mainly third world countries or underdeveloped countries, and there is a reason why they are in this position, and it's mostly because the government is not operating properly, so they don't have an efficient system. So the biggest frustration that I face in the countries that I operate at the moment is the laws, legislation, and the way the government operates the whole system in real estate development, for example. So if I take Greece, for example, Greece has touristic, it's like a touristic country, so this is their main profits. And now they're developing for the last 5 years, they're like heavily developing the real estate side. So they still don't have an efficient system in place in order to run this particular industry. So in my case, the government, the bureaucracy, and the whole system in place is the one that is literally, you know, impacting negatively my investments. And also talking about the technology in this industry, so I will just share several of my experiences. So many of my clients, they are old-fashioned developers, so they struggle in using modern apps and modern technology. Some of them, they're actually still using checks. Okay, so and you know, let's say that in third world countries, let's say, many people, they don't still have a credit card or a debit card. Some people, they don't even know how to use the online banking. So, you know, most of the people, a big chunk of the people, they are not tech educated in general. So I believe that the PropTech company should build the perfect product and literally sell it to the government, and then the government has to educate its population in using it so that they can, you know, make it the same as they did it with the taxis or with the food apps. So during COVID, you know, COVID created a lot of damages in terms of economic and world economy, but in the same time created a lot of opportunities and innovation. So it pushed people to order food online, so they were obliged to learn how to use that app. And it's the same thing with the apps for taxes and so on. So if the government or the system will push a little bit or implement as a must to use, then that will be a little bit easier, because every single person, every single developer, every single investor will be, you know, will have some time to educate themselves on how to use these platforms. Thank you.
Thank you, Valeria. I think tech should be one of the curriculum in the kindergarten. I think this will be really helpful.
I agree with you.
Okay, let's move across to the Atlantic. Ariel, Tokyo Land is a very big corporation running a large conglomerate in the US. I'm sure you have interacted frequently with government organization for your investment. So what are the hurdles that you face from day to day?
Sure. I think one thing that's unique, because as you know, Sally, I worked in Asia for some time, both for a Russian real estate developer as well as a Chinese real estate developer. I think in the US, you know, listening to what we're being discussed right now, there may be debate as to which systems are good or bad in the United States. However, I would say in terms of real estate, the agencies that are utilized, which are basically Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, that can support commercial real estate for what we call middle market, which would be SME. And if you think of it that way, the ability to add liquidity, especially during times of distress for the real estate community, that element of financing is something that could really be utilized over time in Asian markets. Since that doesn't exist, there's a real need for services like Propcap, I believe, that can really fill in the gap because, you know, as you mentioned, in Asia, everything's regional bank orientated to a large extent. That, for example, the Philippines, I know we're going in a big circle here, but, you know, for example, in the Philippines, it's regional banks, and you'll need to do SPLCs to have that, you know, to get that financing secured. But there's many other if that doesn't exist, then you're kind of stuck. You can do, of course, hard money lending or mezzanine lending, but what's the middle? That's right. And so I think in the United States, when we deal with more, we don't really have these kind of issues because that are being discussed right now because, you know, the heads, as you said, with the fish rotting from the head, luckily the head's not rotting here because there's the financing of last resort, which are the agencies. And they essentially provide loans, and then they package the loans and they sell it on the market, right? So that element allows for more liquidity than you would say face in Asia. So we don't really see, as far as I see, in terms of financing, that need, that kind of hurdle that's being discussed right now. But of course, look, PropTech can be utilized to make development more efficient, speed, you know, in terms of timing, because our contracts here are very complex relative to, say, contracts that we've seen in Southeast Asia. It's just, you know, everything you can think about under the sun, and if you can have ways to expedite your construction schedule, or you have ways to improve efficiency and cost overall compared to what your project costs are, I think those are elements that PropTech could be utilized immediately in the sector.
Thank you, Ariel. I guess PropTech covers a wide spectrum, so most likely, yeah. So there will be one suitable for different countries.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Ariel. So with all these frustrations, so startups have already and also technologies have come up to solve all these solutions. How the next question will be how these technologies and startups help shaping the future of the industry. Shall we start with Valeria?
Sorry, did you say Valeria?
Yeah, Valeria, yeah.
Yeah, Valeria, please unmute.
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Valeria.
So if can you please repeat the question?
Sure,
what changes I will bring in the industry?
Yeah, with all these new startup, because we just now mentioned about their gaps from the reality and also the players. So a lot of startups have been created, technologies have been invented to try to cope the situation. So my question will be, how do you see the future from all these startup and technologies being in place?
Well, I have a reserve, so I'm a little bit reserved on everything what's coming up on the market, whatever it's new. So I still have, I'm still in the section of the old-fashioned people, because now many people have ideas, many people create products, but that's not necessarily that their product is the right product for the market, and it's not necessarily that their product will be the product or the system for the future. So I am a little bit reserved on this particular theme, so I'm still going with what's safe. So we're playing safe and risk as less as possible. So I obviously embrace the innovation, and I obviously embrace all the technology that is being brought to us in this industry. But I wanted to say that as a developer, our industry is very practical. So we have to do with a lot of practical things. So there are areas that you can't change with like PropTech. So like still doing the constructions, or still dealing with the building materials and so on. So if I would change anything, I would just probably created a system in order to filter all the ideas. And then at the moment with a partner, we're building a union for landlords that will collaborate directly with the government. So we're trying to push the government to accept the innovation and accept the new way of building and developing the industry.
I see. Thank you very much, Valeria. I guess industry come up with people, so the future will be shaped by them as well. So it depends on which sub-sector you are in, and then the future will be quite different. Yeah. So thank you, Valeria. Q, how about your side? How do you see the future?
How do I see the future? I see that the future, definitely there's a lot of room for improvement on the innovation front, the use of data centers, the use of technology to really facilitate the build of properties across the UK. If I could bring positive change, it's really to make sure that there is a bridge between the government and innovation. And if the government, as has been said before, if the government could support and back the adaptation and the education and awareness around the technology and how that gets embedded into the current infrastructure, I think that could drive the acceleration of adaptation of technology. So that's one thing that I definitely think could have room for change. And another thing, it's also making real estate, I would say, just much more accessible in terms of transparency, in terms of liquidity. So making sure people are even just aware that the real estate space has a lot of room for investments. And that drives people to really be more interested in investing in real estate in different forms and ways.
Thank you, Q. I guess your future will be attracting different people from different backgrounds because of the innovations that you have mentioned. Ariel, how about your side? What do you see the future?
In terms of PropTech?
Yes, in terms of all these technology in place, do you think there's change in the future of the industry?
I mean, it really depends, right? I think if you're talking, I could just say, for example, let's take the US out of it, just the Propcap idea. I think that overall, especially in Southeast Asia, for foreigners wanting to buy apartments, maybe they don't want to only pay in cash. A lot of times you have consumers that are buying apartments in lieu of bonds because there's not a developed bond market, right? And then there's, based on the pricing of where you're buying a unit, it's more speculative. You can buy it at cost and then there's upside versus if you buy it when it's fully completed. So if you can provide solutions for consumers looking to invest more in real estate in Southeast Asia, but you're not able to, you're not able to have financing, and this can be a solution for them. I can see this as being, every main residential developer is going to want to have access to companies like Propcap that can. And there are companies that are out there that say they can fill the void, but are they doing it? Not really. So if there can be that group that can be a known brand that can support that additional liquidity, it can be a great tailwind for the real estate market in Southeast Asia, which is build to sell. In the US, I think everyone wants to adopt for speed and just be faster developers. No one wants to have delays. I think the current credit crunch here with the higher interest rates has led to some banks' construction loans being pulled back. So PropTech is definitely important to improve efficiency and speed. So I think those two elements are really important. Different regions, different issues, different solutions.
Yes, you are very correct. And I think the technology probably can fill in the gap of the constructed by the traditional industry.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you. We have all these technologies, and I think one of the issue is how to adopt all these innovation solution into the real world. So I would like to invite Sumarana, what do you see the biggest hurdle in adopting all these solution into the practical world?
Yes, somehow partially I answered this question in my my previous talk when I was saying, look, the business necessities of a traditional real estate actor may not be aligned with implementing a disruptive app. But I do believe that world is changing, and think Excel and Google search were just as novel as, I don't know, whatever digital tool we are using now. And right now Excel is like an industry standard and we are all pissed off about it, but it's a reality. And if I'm thinking 3D digital tours were quite a very niche, strange thing until the pandemic started and everybody wanted to have to see a 3D tour because, hello, no more movement. And right now we adopted them and we are quite comfortable with them. I also believe that what WeWork did, no matter how controversial that can be, changed how we see an office, and this co-worky, clubby, coffee shop vibe that they brought to the office is here to stay. Okay, that does not have anything to do with technology, but it's something to explain how the industry is adopting innovation as long as the innovation is in agreement with what they want. So I will just reiterate my previous idea that I'm a supporter of technology, but I think we lack empathy. We lack understanding of how the market is happening, how the real estate people are thinking, how the investors are thinking, what are the forces that drive their decisions. And I see, and that was our purpose in PropTech Romania, to bridge this gap, because tech people can be very smart, very passionate about the technology, but very little knowledgeable in the sense of real estate business. And we see a lot of products on the market, a lot of startups coming up with brilliant tools that are just missing the point. And I'm sure you all see this happening in your geographies as well. And so not one tool would be the solution, but better communication between these two and better understanding that you cannot talk about prop tech and real estate. You should talk about real estate enabled by digital tools, and that's it. They should not be in two worlds, they should be in one.
I think you're very correct, Miranda. I think it's all demand driven. So solution has to meet the demand.
Exactly.
Thank you. Uma, thank you. Uma, you mentioned just now that the big issue is that government is not seeing what the industry is seeing. Is it the same thing for adopting innovation solution into their day-to-day work as well?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, government do amazing jobs and they've got a lot to contend with on an almost daily and weekly basis. But I don't always believe that, from my experience, that they are working in the smartest ways. And from a UK perspective, I know we're talking more generally, but from a UK perspective, we've got a world-class real estate industry. There's no question about that. And we also have a very emerging, very high profile, world-renowned tech industry as well, not just in prop tech, but tech generally. Unfortunately, the two don't always cross over in the way that they maybe need to. So that's definitely one of the challenges which government absolutely can support, not just by funding, but also embracing and embedding tech process, inviting more tech-based processes into things like procurement, lobbying, consultation, policy and decision-making processes, and so on. Miranda actually hit the nail on the head. She made a great point in the first question, which was around COVID accelerating things like fintech, because people had no option but to to utilize and embrace technology in certain ways. And Valeria said the same thing as well. But actually, we don't see that so much in the real estate sector. So government can play another role in actually insisting upon utilizing more real estate-based approaches, tech-based approaches within real estate and other government processes as well. Just to sort of talk a little bit more about that very quickly. One of the biggest challenges, I think, though, is PropTech isn't a new industry. It's not a new sector. It's been around for a long time. That's the first thing I'll say. But more people are becoming aware of it because probably more money and emphasis has been put on it in the last maybe year or two, possibly around the pandemic. And because of that, the real estate sector hasn't embraced it in the way that maybe fintech, the financial services sector, has. So for me, we're going back to construction. So we're now adopting modern methods of construction, in particular modular ways to deliver off-site construction. So we're delivering houses through essentially building them and assembling them in factories and then delivering them to site. And places in Europe, in particular, and the US have been doing this for many, many decades. And I appreciate we have slight weather constraints and weather challenges that maybe some European countries don't have in the same way. But we're only embracing this now, whereas this technology has been around for 20 years at least. It's an example of how far behind the UK are sometimes in embracing these things. And again, some random mentioned around products, some not being designed well necessarily, or products that don't meet the needs of challenges. But on the flip side of that, where we have got some really strong, excellent products available within the tech sector that fix so many gaps and so many problems within real estate, unfortunately, the issue is that the real estate sector and leaders within the real estate sector don't accept or acknowledge that those gaps or problems actually exist. So I think one of the biggest issues we've got is actually educating people within the sector that these technologies are here to actually accelerate problems, challenges to deliveries to problems. And one of the big things is around institutional investment. So I'm dealing with hundreds of millions of pounds, of billions of pounds even, of foreign investment into the UK. But it takes so much time to deliver that investment because of the processes involved. Investors want to look at different parts of the UK, which requires an awful lot of manual data input. I know there's tech applications out there that will look at yield compression opportunities, rental values, demographics, demand, in all different parts of the UK by the touch of a button. But those processes are so archaic and manual, it delays quite often significant amounts of investment into not just the UK, but other parts of the world. So one of the things that I will be doing as a leader in the real estate sector is educating my clients, educating government, both public, local authority and central government, in how we can embrace technology in accelerating the delivery of some of our priorities.
Thank you, Omar. Thank you very much all for all the wonderful idea. I think this is the gap between different players, probably at different timing. So we are just trying to how to align all on the same level and all try to make it more or less the same time. So I think this is the end for this section. I pass it back to Pankaj. Thank you.
If I just may add something, because I really enjoyed all the answers for the last question, and I think I would like to add also to what Umar said. And it's people really completely, do not know how to approach the subject, and considering the ESG as a whole, it's really a lot of different regulations, legislation, requirements, reporting, and we really need, and also a lot of different digital solutions for that, for the reporting, for enabling the how to approach the subject and how to really change the way we are doing BG and everything what we are talking here. It's really, we need to change the way we are doing business and the way we are thinking about business, not only about thinking how to earn more money and more and more and more and more, but also really look quite more wide for that, yeah, and also for the future and for sustainability of our business, for the governance, for the social approach. I think.
So yeah, it's hard to.
I think children do not need education in digital solutions, but they do need education about how to use them, and also we all do, yeah. So yes, thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
Thanks a lot, Serena. I think fantastic points. Really love the conversation that we had just now, and again, thanks to the diversity of the panel. And the insights that we are gathering right now. But it's time to move on to the next session or next half of the event, which is called roast session. And what does that mean is that we essentially provide a brutal, honest feedback to the startup on their solution, on their product roadmap, on their go-to-market strategy, and so on and so forth. And why we do that, why we love taking founders through that painful process, because when founders learn about the issues, the pitfalls, potential pitfalls with their solution, then only they are able to improve and grow. And most of the times they are just not able to get that brutal, honest feedback from the industry leaders. So this is a fantastic time. We have the industry leaders on the panel today. So Sally and Neo, why don't we give a very short summary of Propcap? Get the questions and get the feedback from the experts. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Pankaj. I really appreciate this opportunity to join this rules section, because as Ray Dalio said, reflection and playing equals to progress. So I'm sure we will move to the next stage. This section is focused on the product. So I would like to share a very short video to illustrate our product, probably in 3 minutes time. So please enjoy.
Are you able to share your screen, Sally?
Yes. Hold on. Sorry, it seems that trying to do one more time. Okay.
Please, go ahead. You need to turn on the voice as well.
Sorry, Pankaj.
Do you have the voice turned on?
Oh, all right.
So it is not on our side.
I see. Okay. So shall I? Okay, do it one more time.
I think we are able to read the. Yeah, go ahead.
Of overseas property mortgage investment, creating alternative and sustainable opportunities for investors in a fast-changing world. The investor becomes Propcap's mortgage funder with a simple subscription. With a click of a button, borrowers can easily apply for a buy-to-let mortgage online for overseas property, including but not limited to UK, Japan, Australia, and more. We ensure every transaction is conducted in a manner that will protect everyone's property rights. With eKYC and eCredit by rural systems, we're able to evaluate the background and credit score of borrowers. Propcap provides a calculation and risk assessment with AI based on values such as location, property type, condition, and rental income, as well as a borrower's personal factors like income, personal assets, and employment status, to generate reasonable and safe loan proposals. The mortgage funder can then select from a wide range of mortgage deals and invest in their ideal project. Once both parties are in agreement, the process is completed. Property, as a traditional industry with its heavy energy consumption and construction waste, generates almost 50% of global CO2 emissions every year. Of those total emissions, building operations are responsible for 27%, while building materials and construction are responsible for an additional 20%. The real estate industry is making changes to achieve 2030 emissions and reductions targets that align with reaching net zero by the middle of the century and keeping 1.5 degrees within reach. To support this goal, Propcap launches the Green Mortgage Deal, where we encourage borrowers to select energy-efficient properties by offering lower interest rates, along with an opportunity for funders to understand their impact on environmental sustainability when making investment decisions. We believe everything we do now is for a better sustainable future. Propcap Technologies, beyond the border.
Awesome.
Thank you, Prakash.
That's the quick overview of Propcap solution. Questions and comments?
Just a quick one from me. How many funders are linked to this? Is this almost like a brokerage service where there's many different funders, or is it one financial institute that this represents?
Thank you. Yeah, this is Neil. Every transaction is matched by one funder and one borrowers, and so at the back we have many multiple funders, and they go and choose the project they want to lend it on. Right now, our funders are actually mainly high net worth individuals and also credit funds, and coming from Hong Kong, China, and Singapore. And we actually working with a crowdfunding platform in Japan. So they will be joining us in the near futures. So that creating substantially changes on our funding source. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Neil. Question for me. Audio now. No,
take care.
Sure. But so just the question I have is, now, are they funding for commercial projects, or is it mortgages for residents? I heard you mention credit funds, so curious to hear.
That's right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Very good questions. I think initially when we start, we only focus on residentials, buy-to-let or investment properties, because in order to automate and also using the same models to assess the borrower risk, then we need to narrow down the scope. Yeah, so we only focus on the residentials, more residential flats, or in Japan we can also looking at houses, investment houses as well. Yeah, but hopefully in the future, if we can expand our scope, then we can expand to the commercial side also. But actually, I know another startup in Japan. This is one of our investors as well. He's focused on doing commercial properties with a similar tools. Yeah.
Right now, because I was going to say, if you go into, as everyone on this panel knows, if you get into these kind of platforms for commercial. Why would the credit fund necessarily need this platform? They can an Invesco can just find their own commercial buildings, but they don't invest in residential flats. And if you can figure out a solution to have these credit funds that are amenable to, getting into the, helping borrowers that are individuals for various investment properties and flats throughout Southeast Asia, that would be quite tremendous. If you can figure out a way to bridge that gap, it'll definitely add more liquidity to the market and improve the sales for developers, which more money for them means they can do more developments.
Exactly. Yeah, I think the Southeast Asia market would be the next area we want to explore, especially for Thailand. We understand that the Southeast Asia's market for retail investor, usually they don't get any finance from it. So that would be a good target area. So I think that next the next area we want to explore is Thailand first. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, makes sense.
And if I may, how that solution differs from the traditional ones, and why why your customers are choosing you, and how you differ from your competition. And then the other question is, sorry, the other question is, what's your business model?
Okay, very good. Yeah. I think each country has different issues and different gap for us to go in. For example, in UK, it's a retail investor. If you want to get a mortgage, it will take 6 months to 9 months to apply or to get approval for a mortgage. But when you buy a off-plan properties, and but the duty of the construction's time, they always delay for a few years in UK, I believe. But when it's ready to complete, near the completion, they only give you 1 to 2 months notice. So there's a big gap between you get the loan approval or and the closing time. Yeah. So from a non-resident, from an overseas investor, it's very difficult to be able to match, the closing time and the project closing time, and also the loan approval, the drawdown time from the bank. Yeah. So we can jump in for that. For example, in Japan case, it's a non-resident. Basically, there's no local bank provide mortgage to foreigners. So in that case, then we jump in. Then we have a whole large market that no one knows how to do this. Yeah, so except for Thailand as well, it's a non-resident foreigners. Unlikely you can get a mortgage from the local banks. So you need you need a know-how how to deal with the legal charge, the assets management, and also the debt collections as well. Yeah.
I think Umar has a question. Umar?
Yeah, thank you. It was more of a comment and a consideration which you may want to think about. Certainly the UK have got, like the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, and other countries will have similar regulations, albeit they'll differ. Certainly the US has got similar ones. It's just a consideration about how you may navigate each of the country's regulatory authorities around borrowing. It's not a question as such, it's just a consideration that you may want to make because it's not a blanket approach, as you know, across all countries.
Yes, exactly. This is actually, we have been looking at it, that actually prevent us to, to include every country's into our product. So we do the research on it and to see where's our gap, is it legally compliance that allow us to do it. For example, in UK, we don't lend to UK residents in general, and we don't lend on home mortgage, and we only more focus on the buy-to-let properties. Yeah, but in Japan side, we can actually lend to the local resident. Is fine, and also we will lend on different type of properties. So it's really case by case and also country by countries. Yeah, what you mentioned is absolutely right. Yeah, yeah.
I have a comment, if it's possible.
Oh, thank you.
So, my biggest challenge with my operations in third world countries is the distribution of wealth. So at the moment, you have a company that is lending liquid cash to projects in first or second world country. So I can see that your company is very careful and precautious. It has a good risk assessment, and they do, low risk, low returns. Would you consider into expanding in high risk, high returns countries, which is, for example, Greece or Italy or Eastern Europe or so on? I'm inviting you in Greece.
Wow, that's an amazing invitation. Take it,
Thank
you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Expect to set up a company office there very soon.
Yeah, we want to expand to the Europe, what European country as well. I think one thing how we look at it is also the titles, the title rights, and then second is the ability of the secondary market, how quick we can resell the property or cash it out. If the borrowers default. Yeah, so I think these are the two main areas we need to explore and discuss before we can jump into that market. Yeah, but we are actually quite open. Where we should which countries property we include. Yeah. Thank you for coming. Yeah, looking forward to visit you.
Neo, sorry, did you answer the question about the business model? Because I had some problems with connections and I didn't hear you.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think I did not answer your questions. Yeah. Regarding business model, we are a matching platform, so we match the funder, the person who would be interested to lend on the project, and also and the borrowers. So between that, we take a service fee, for every transactions. And also we will collect some others related fee, for example valuations or other brokerage fee as well, if there's anything happens. Yeah. Did I answer your questions?
Yeah, but who pays the fee? Is it the people who are lending, borrowing the money, or the lender?
Yeah, actually we will collect fees from both sides. Yeah. So from the borrowers we will charge a percentage, a service fee is a percentage of the loan amount, and from the funder side we may charge a annual service fee. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from Samantha or Q?
Yes, I do have a question. Thank you for asking. So hi, Neve. Q from FutureBricks.
Hi, Q.
Hi. So the business model is definitely very attractive, and I'm very curious about how do you structure these investment deals to be really attractive to the funders behind the deals, because these borrowers come from different backgrounds, they invest in different geographical locations, mainly the UK, and each of these projects have different attributes. So how is that made attractive against other type of asset classes? What's the specific niche of funders that you're targeting?
Right, very good questions. I think our business model, like Propcap's business model and FutureBricks, are very similar, and yours is more focused on construction project, I guess. Yeah, and then we more focus on just buy-to-let properties, like completed properties. So there are many funders. Many of our funders actually are also property investors. They have a long time experience in investing in physical properties. So there are good things of investing properties. You get, a rental income, you get capital appreciations. Okay, but when you have managed a lot of properties, then you will find management is spending a lot of times. Finding a tenants, manage a property is quite troublesome sometimes. So then in that case, so you being a funders, you will get a above like quite high risk-adjusted return, but at the same time you get a property as a collateral. So you would like investing in a property but without managing the properties, that save you times. Yeah. So and then also it's easier. You can diversify from different countries, and in our structures is actually you can diversify in different currencies. So, for example, for UK lending projects, we are not only lending in pounds, but the funders can actually choose to lend in US dollar, or can be choosing in Hong Kong dollars. And so, in the really near future, we will have a yen funder. They will lend in yen, okay, on a UK projects. So right now on UK project is maybe around 10%. Right, but for if you lend in yen, because of the bond yield is lower than the Japan bond yield is lower than UK, so you can look into around 6 to 7% lending rates. So from a borrower point of view, someone maybe you should and the question is who will take the FX risk? The borrower will take the FX risk. So if the borrower thinks okay. He thinks yen will depreciate, he can be benefit by borrowing yen at a lower interest rate, and also the future depreciation of the of the currency. Yeah. So then in that case, you have a rental a fixed income return and also the currency return as well.
I see. No, that makes a lot of sense. It's making it hassle-free for people who are very, very familiar with the real estate, but also they have this double sort of strategy when it comes to currency investment.
That's right. Yeah.
By the way, just to remind everybody, this is called roast session, not praise Propcap session. I see all the panelists are extremely kind, extremely gracious. They are providing amazing feedback, but not really providing the brutal, honest comment that they may have. So no sugar.
I'm expecting a brutal question. Where's my face? Yeah.
I still have not cried yet this time.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to see.
I will have a question, but it's not really mean. Sorry, it's too sunny outside here, and it's not very often sunny where I am right now. What's your biggest challenge right now? And out of all the assumptions that you made, for sure, what is the riskiest that you identified so far?
I think right now our biggest challenge is we do have a lot of potential borrowers, but we don't have enough fundings, capitals, because it's a platform. It's a two-sided equation. It's always two sides. Sometimes you get more borrowers, sometimes you get more funders. So, but at this moment we have more borrowers, but not enough funders. So right now we are working hard. That we try to raise the borrowers. Then later on maybe we have more borrowers than we have more funders and then more than borrowers. Yeah, so it's a two-sided equation. So I think it's kind of challenge, how you can raise both sides in the same speed. Then then you can increase the maximize the revenues. Yeah.
And the riskiest assumption was this, that borrowers will come as many as the lenders, or the lenders will come as many as the borrowers?
Yeah, I think, and it also depends on the market, because I think that the market in UK and the market in Japan are a bit different. In UK, we actually focus on the borrowers are off-plan investors, and so the needs or the demand for the loan is usually when the investment project is close. Yeah, is close to the end. So the closing around the closing time, then they need the funds. Okay, so in that case, then we usually may be able to work with developers. Then we kind of knows when the demand is coming in. So when that demand came in, maybe we have to wait a bit more times for the next projects. But for in Japan, we actually more focus on refinance market. Yeah. So, and then refinance market, that may not be coming in, all the times. Yeah. So sometimes it may be more difficult to estimate when is the demand on it. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question. How many deals have you completed so far?
In the last 2 years, we have completed close to 40 deals. Yeah. 40 transactions. Yeah. I think we should able to expect much more if we can secure more fundings on it. Yeah.
And to add on that, I think what Neil has mentioned before, the crowdfunding will actually help us to balance the equation of the lenders and borrowers.
Any other question? Any other comment from the panelists, from the audience? Okay, I think that's it. I think there's some background noise over here, but yeah. Again, thanks everybody for your time today. It was really a pleasure to hear your feedback on the solution, your comments on the solution. It was really awesome to hear your insights on how overall PropTech market may be evolving, how the financing ecosystem may be evolving, what kind of challenges may be there with the policymakers, and so on and so forth. Obviously, this is not the last connection that we are making. This is the very first connection that we are making, and I hope that we keep reconnecting every now and then to see how we can collaborate with each other, support each other in each other's objective, and really grow this partnership together. Again, thanks to the panelists, Sabrina, Ariel, Q, Uma, Samantha, Valeria. Really appreciate your time and your thoughts today. Neo, Sally, you did a fantastic job with moderating the panel, answering questions, and I see that you clearly did not cry after this session. So great job on that. And yeah, let's reconnect again and explore partnerships. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care. Have a great day.
Thanks for your time.
Bye-bye.